morning on Monday, the 2nd of December 2024. It's 8 a.m. in the Gambia, and therefore coffee time on West Coast Radio with me, Peter Gomez. And coffee time is brought to you in association with partners led by Wave, the U.S. Poultry and Egg Council, and Gam Food Trading, Easy Financial Services, Staff Africa Global, Bloombank Africa Global Properties, and the Gambia Experience.
Did you know service plots are now available at Baki? Welcome to Baki, Taft City's fourth residential estate.
Yes, service plots available at Baki with 3 years interest-free payment plan with a minimum deposit of only $94,000, and it will come with fenced plot, water reticulation, electricity, solar street lights, and bituminized internal roads. Are you ready to build your dream home for yourself?
Call us now.
And coming up over the next 1 hour, on this day, 8 years ago, Adama Barrow was declared winner of the 2016 presidential election and therefore duly elected president of the Gambia, ending 22 years of tyrannical rule. But 8 years into his reign, Barrow stands accused of complete betrayal of the wishes and aspirations of Gambians. Teachers in government-aided schools have been instructed to walk out of their schools this morning for what their union terms blatant disregard for their livelihoods by the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs. The government on Sunday issued a statement claiming the teachers' grievances have been addressed. I'll be speaking to both sides this morning. And midway through the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, we have a report on the latest statistics on rape and other violent acts perpetrated against Gambian girls and women.
Good day, my people. My name is Marcel Sanyang, Bank Farafenya branch. I just want to encourage my customers to use our mobile app and use our ATM. You don't even need to come to the bank to do any transaction. You can be at your home and you do your transactions. You can also use our ATMs. When the queue is long, you don't even need to enter the bank. Just use the ATM and off you go. I just want to encourage all of you that Trust Bank, we are here for you. We will make sure that we give you all what you need in your banking. Thank you.
Online and on air, this is Coffee Time with Peter Gomez on Monday, the 2nd of December, 2024. Now, tens of thousands of school children may be left without classes today as dozens of teachers in government-aided schools have been asked to down tools by the Gambia Teachers Union. The strike has been called in protest at the non-payment of salaries and educational support known as SIG. The GTU blames the Ministry of Finance, accusing it of, quote, blatant disregard for teachers' livelihoods. But on Sunday, the ministry issued a statement saying all payments had been processed. Well, we can hear from both sides this morning. The Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education is waiting to be invited into the studio. First up is Essa Sowe. He was here not so long ago celebrating World Teachers' Day with us. Essa, welcome back. He's Assistant Secretary of the Gambia Teachers Union. Essa, welcome back.
Thank you, Uncle Peter, and thank you for the space.
Fantastic. Yeah, I always get my mics, mixed up again. Welcome back to West Coast Radio.
Thank you once again.
All right. First things first, is this strike on?
Yes, please. It is on.
Because last night we had the statement from the government saying that payments had actually been made since Friday, so you don't have any justification to strike on Monday, 3 days after payment had been made.
Actually, Peter, that statement actually is quite unfortunate and very insensitive.
You're not saying it's false?
It's false.
Okay.
To say the least. Actually, it's quite...
So no amounts were received in the school accounts?
Maybe false may not be right. Like, let me go back to my initial position. It's quite unfortunate and insensitive. The very person who worked on that particular statement, likewise the cash plan that was mentioned, was done 5 days after the individual had already received his or her salary. So it's quite unfortunate that statement was coming, and in fact coming on a Sunday. We wrote to the Minister of Finance 1 month ago, sought audience with him, the General Secretary of the Gambia Teachers Union, visited him, and he refused audience. In fact, he engaged her through his personal assistant, and finally referred her to the Permanent Secretary, only to be told that all appointments were cancelled for that day. So, after 1 month, within 24 hours after sending our statement, if that one should come up, not only come up, but on a Sunday, that begs to ask a lot of questions. How serious the Ministry of Finance is regarding the welfare and livelihood of our teachers. It's important for me to mention that we have nothing against the Gambia government. The Minister of Basic and Secondary Education, we said the PS is coming in, is working in. With our renewed commitment, we were able to do a lot. Even going to the point of building staff quarters for, for teachers, which is the core responsibility of government. As we speak right now, I have surrendered my official car to the Minister of Basic and Secondary Education to support them in one of the most important monitoring and supervision missions, that is the CCM.
Okay.
So we are very supportive.
I thought in support of the President's Meet the People tour.
No, actually, we are apolitical.
Okay.
I wouldn't say whether it is political or not, but we don't get into those things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You said this strike action is necessitated by the non-payment of November salaries for the senior secondary schools, board schools. Which are these schools?
Yes, actually we have different types of schools. And basically in the case of senior secondary schools, you have those within the mainstream, directly under the purview of the regional education directorates. But also by virtue of the Education Act, there are certain senior secondary schools, the mature ones, which are under special management structures called Board of Governors. And these are subvented. BAU mission, they are grant aided per se. So the issue of subvention itself is misleading, because subvention is PE, is personal emolument. That money is exclusively meant for their salaries. Last month, it took government 11 to 12 days. Minister of Finance, I wouldn't even say government per se, 11 to 12 days after the entire civil service received their salary for them to pay. We sat over the issue.
So 11 days into the new month?
No, after the due date for payment.
What's the due date for payment?
Actually, government pays salaries in arrears. So traditionally, on the 25th of every month, they are expected to pay. So from the 25th to the 25th is 30 days. So 12 days after the 25th is forced or into the second week of the,
Sure. Around 6th, 7th of the following month.
Absolutely.
Well, in this case, they paid on Friday. That's what they're claiming. And then you say SIG for mission.
Let me just say, according to them, it was processed.
Okay.
Even if they are to receive their salary, it's going to be today. It's processed. That's a political statement.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The word use is processed.
Yes. It's a political statement.
We'll get to that. And SIG for mission schools. What's SIG?
It's important for me to share this particular part of our history. The Gambia Country Status Report on Education, commonly known as CSR 2010, states that household expenditure was at 729 million Gambian dollars. So this is a country-specific report that actually is developed to bring about some shared vision about the future of education in this country. And then it has basically some traditional and basic indicators, such as internal efficiency and learning objectives, external efficiency and its alignment to global labor requirements. So in the progressive realization of free, compulsory and available basic and secondary education, government introduced the school improvement grant so that parents won't be levying. So this money is meant to provide the inputs, the basic necessities, ingredients for quality teaching and learning to take place. But by extension too, these senior secondary schools we're talking about, the same SIG is used in cases to pay the salaries of their caretakers.
So SIG is only for senior secondary schools, right?
No, for upper, lower, and senior secondary schools.
Okay.
But in the case of the mission schools, both the subvention for their board schools and SIG was not paid. So if SIG in a mission school, let's say Central Salwa Basic School, is not paid until today, it means one would wonder the fate of the caretaker there in September, October, and November. It means that gentleman or lady will be going without salaries. So SIG also to some extent, has to do with salaries for the ancillary staff. So it is meant to provide the necessary teaching and learning materials, and by extension also to pay for the salaries of some caretakers in certain instances.
Okay. The last time you were here, you lamented the non-appointment of a minister for the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education. That has been done. I mean, what's your reaction to this, and how has it changed things since her appointment and now?
Actually, the appointment is a welcome development. The unfortunate thing is that it has taken so long to identify out of $2.something million in a sector of over 20-something thousand personnel, somebody to run the ministry. That's the unfortunate bit of it, but the appointment is a welcome decision, and we are looking forward to work with the minister. We are yet to meet her. Probably we'll do that today.
Mm-hmm. So do you meet every new minister that is appointed?
No, not absolutely meeting, because the coordinating committee meeting is kick-starting today, and then that would be an opportunity for us to interact.
Okay. And I mean, would the union have loved to? Well, let me put the right question first. Were you consulted during the recruitment process?
Not absolutely, and which is contrary to the president's commitment and promise. Contrary, because in 2017, when we visited him at Kairaba, in his own words, he said he was going to consult us on major developments regarding basic and secondary education in particular, which didn't happen. So
maybe he doesn't consider the appointment of a minister major.
Well,
it's a major development.
I will leave that to you, but it is a major development.
Okay. All right. But what do you think of, the minister, yet again coming from, the classroom? Because I understand she was a lecturer at the UTG.
Actually, the minister is supposed to provide leadership. We have, at the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, we have all that is required in terms of personnel, in terms of, structures.
In other words, even Peter Gomez could be Minister of Education.
Yes, because
and the ministry would still work. Okay.
The institutional frameworks are in place in terms of structures and necessary, policies and regulations. It's just a matter of leadership. Our problem is our leadership with the ministers, and that has been our problem. And I only hope that the new minister will be listening and then be very cooperative and then supportive in all the processes. You see, we are very willing. But we only have one or two institutions in government. In fact, one, that is the Ministry of Finance, that is not supportive to this process. And that is our problem.
When did this lack of support begin? With this new minister, or has it been there? Is it a problem he inherited?
When the new minister came, this has never been an issue. We never had a cause to go to the Ministry of Finance for some of these things. When people like Babukar Boy, the current Vice President Mohammed, were there.
They've never been in finance, have they?
No, I mean as Permanent Secretary of Minister of Basic and Secondary Education.
Yeah, but your issue is with the Minister of Finance.
Yes, because the minister has never honored the cash plan of the ministry. Peter, it will be shocking for you to realize that out of the three major sectors in government, education, health, and agriculture. Education has the least development budget, 3.3 something. Health, about 9%. Agriculture, 13%.
The minister tried to explain that you get support from other multinational,
but finance's development budget is 96%. 32 times more than education. Health, 3 times more than education. Agriculture, 4 times more than education. And education is the largest sector. Why coming second? You see, the budget is the second most important policy aside from the Constitution, and it reflects government's priority. So 3% for education shows that they are not prioritizing education. And the worst thing is the 96% is all about PE, which they see as an expense. They need to invest seriously in education. And then the worst of all is people don't talk about the inputs. And when the results are out, we go back and blame the teachers that they are not performing.
True.
Imagine a particular school walking to the union, begging me, literally asking me to go to the credit union to support them to provide chalk. In fact, we are not even supposed to use chalk.
What are we supposed to be using now?
Peter.
I used chalk, and chalk was okay.
No, you were using chalk. Yes. And you are not supposed to use that now. So that's just an example. To be honest with you, you will realize that even what is approved You know, we talk about program-based budgeting. That has never been honored and respected. It's only a ceiling that is determined. And even what is approved is not all given. What is given is staggered. What is staggered is delayed. This is a situation with the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education. This is why we don't even talk about MoBSE. We talk about Minister of Finance, because that is where the problem is. And the buck stops with the Minister of Finance.
So how do you feel when government officials go around and tout, education as right up there, in the priority list of government?
It is actually, that's just a political statement.
Empty words.
Peter, you see...
empty words.
Well, I want to be a little bit diplomatic today.
Lip service?
Well, looking at the $5 billion, that is chasing the numbers. Actually, literally, nothing serious has been increased. If you were giving me 10,000 for 5 people, and now you're giving me 20,000 for 10 people, it's same difference. But what is important here is that what is there for us to develop education? Education, at some point, we were going up to 17%. But the two ministries together is just about 14%, which is less than the global, the benchmark of 20% and below, way below ECOWAS average of 24%.
Ah.
Yes. So how do we say we are doing, and yet still you want to compare us with Liberia, Sierra Leone, Nigeria? That's not a serious analysis.
No.
This is our concern.
Okay, so the strike is on today. I'm sure once you leave here, you'll be calling the schools concerned to find out whether the monies have been received in their accounts. Once the monies have been received, everybody goes back to work tomorrow, right?
You see, before answering that question, it's important for us to look at this thing, contextually. We are not only interested in the November salaries.
Ah.
Peter, we've been into this business for long. Government books will be closing on the 15th of December. There must be assurance that the December one will be paid. Because traditionally, they will carry forward some of these things into the incoming year and then overstretching the budget. So, and then as a result, those technicalities will come into play. Yes, this is January, the memorandum, how do you call it, whatever thing is not. So what we want to avoid is to make sure that the December is available, but more importantly, from January 2025, this should not happen. It's a recurring decimal.
By the 25th of the month, from January 2025, you want all teachers to receive their salaries.
Exactly.
And all schools to receive their SIGs.
Absolutely.
All right. And you're saying, until they give the commitment that by the 15th of December, they will provide proof that payments have been made, just as, they pay themselves and everybody else, you will not be in a haste to call off this strike.
No, for this particular strike, it's about the subvention and SIG of specifically mission and board schools.
And once you have confirmation
we'll sort that out, and we'll be happy to continue engaging the ministry and then government, as a whole.
We also hear that UTG lecturers are on strike. Are they part of your union, UTG lecturers?
They have their own staff association, and through that they are engaging,
So they are not part of the union?
Some of them, but through our social wing, that is the cooperative credit union, and not necessarily unionized. We have two categories of members. Some that are not unionized, but want to enjoy our, credit union or social facilities or whatever thing, pay agency fee, or they are allowed to engage, pay agency fee, and then do the needful, because it's one family. But these are people who are unionized and are core members.
And just finally, what the university lecturers are striking for and what your teachers are striking for are totally different. But given this, unrest in our education system, would you say, the education system is in some kind of crisis?
Yes, I would say in some kind of crisis.
And how can we solve that crisis? Because this government did not come to bring in crisis where there wasn't crisis before. People will go back to Yahya Jammeh and say, oh no, he prioritized, if anything, two things. Education and security.
They might be right in their own respect, because from 2025 or thereabout, when Boy came as permanent secretary, up to 2017, we had only one minister and one permanent secretary. But 2017 to date, we have 3 ministers and 5 permanent secretaries, 2 of them repeating.
That's a sign of crisis, is it?
Exactly. And two, here we are in a situation, for instance, where people are graduating from the university and Gambia College and they cannot get their attestation. Why? Because the funding the ministry needs, the ministry owes those institutions because the Ministry of Finance is not disbursing funds.
Oh, wow.
So this is a crisis. So they must invest in education. And then, you see, the SIG, for instance, I didn't even mention one thing. When the results are out, the management or administration is supposed to do some serious analysis. Look at the thematic areas. If the problem lies with the teacher in terms of content or pedagogy, the head teacher or principal is supposed to organize a staff development or capacity development program to build the teacher's strength if it has to do with pedagogy or content knowledge, so that those issues are addressed. So in the absence of SIG, it becomes, a recurring. So how do we address matters of concern within our school system? It wouldn't be possible.
Well, that's a challenge.
A big one indeed.
We'll keep monitoring the situation, whether you get the money or not. Now, it's a one-day strike you called for. Does it mean that even if the money is not there, you will order your teachers back to work tomorrow?
No, we did not ask for one-way strike.
It's an indefinite strike.
No, we gave government up to close of business tomorrow. If nothing happens, it's going to be nationwide, regardless of category or ownership. So it must be resolved today. We've given them 48 hours until tomorrow by close of business. If everything is okay today in terms of the SIG and subvention, we'll ask our teachers to go back to the class and continue engaging them. But if nothing happens by end of close of business tomorrow, we roll it out for the rest of the country.
Full strike, nationwide.
Yes, indeed.
Essa, thank you very much for coming.
It's my
That's
pleasure.
Essa Sowe, the Assistant General Secretary of the Gambia Teachers Union. Well, as he spoke, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, was listening in. We'll take a quick commercial break, and then we'll come back and hear from government side. It's Coffee Time with Peter Gomez.
Looking for an establishment where value for money and unrivaled services with admirable turnaround time is guaranteed? The Port of Banjul is the perfect place for you. A vital gateway for trade offering connections to numerous global destinations. With improved infrastructure combined with a flexible tariff, the Port of Banjul remains a vital node in maritime trade. Along with its dedicated workforce, efficient service delivery, technology-inspired innovation, and an impressive record in handling all type of cargo. The Port of Banjul is also widely acknowledged as one of the safest ports on the continent with no history of piracy. As a major player in the region's maritime trade, accounting for 90% of all imports and exports, we are more than just a transit point, but a vital cog in the global trade sphere. Come experience a hassle-free fast customs clearance inspired by our simplified trade documentation procedures, safe and efficient cargo and vessel handling. The Port of Banjul offers prompt, reliable and value for money service, and customer satisfaction is guaranteed.
Welcome back. It's Coffee Time with Peter Gomez, and if you'd like to advertise on the program, get in touch with Mr. Jibril Jassi on 699-0107 or 787-0107 or 924-2424. Mr. Louis Moses Mendy is the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry for Basic and Secondary Education. Before I open the mic for him, let me just read you the statement issued by the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs. On Sunday, the 1st of December, we acknowledge the important role of our teachers and the importance of timely disbursement of funds to ensure the smooth functioning of our education system. The Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs wishes to address the concerns raised by the Teachers Union regarding the non-payment of November salaries for senior secondary schools, board schools, and the School Improvement Grant SIG for mission schools, which has led to a proposed strike scheduled for Monday, December the 2nd. We wish to assure the union and the general public that all payments were processed on Friday, November the 29th, 2024, in line with the planned payment plan. The ministry remains committed to fulfilling its obligations to support the education sector and ensure uninterrupted learning for students across the country. The ministry remains committed to fostering collaboration with all stakeholders to address challenges and ensure continuous support for the education sector. The Teachers Union, is a union you know very well. I suppose before you became PS, you were very active in their activities. I suppose you still are, because whenever we speak to them, they praise you. But what's the genesis of this problem?
Thank you very much, Uncle Peter. Good morning to you and good morning to your listeners.
Good morning.
Thank you for inviting us to this very important program. Let me start by saying that the Teachers Union, it's only a union when we employ teachers. It's only when we employ teachers that they become members of the union.
True.
So that's a relationship that we have, and we have always worked in cherishing it so that we could always do the right things at the right time to avoid hitches. As you know, unions can be very challenging in some instances, especially when their demands or needs are not met. So the unfortunate thing in this particular one is that they've written to the Minister of Finance seeking audience with the minister, and according to them, they were not treated well. And as such, they got furious, and they waited to ensure that these November salaries are not paid on time, then they would act. And that's what resulted to
You're
this.
suggesting they're weaponizing the situation, even though, I mean, teachers have every right to say, you know, it's time for us to be paid. Pay us when you're meant to pay us.
Yes, you know, payment system in government is in different folds. And let me explain so that people understand how teachers, among other civil servants, are paid. There are those that are directly paid from the treasury level, meaning the treasury will send the monies directly to their accounts or to their banks. But with the grant-aided, it's a bit different. The grant-aided schools are those that we send the monies from treasury to the central bank to GTU or to CESCO, or depending on their payment points. And now GTU will now credit their account. So the route in which the subvented schools are paid is a bit longer than the normal route that the other civil servants or the other teachers are paid.
Given this problem that we now have, is it time to shorten that route?
Exactly that. I was going to come to that, because one of the things that we are going to do is we are going to engage with the teachers union so that we all discuss, we come together and see how can we sort in some of the processes if they are possible. Because what we also found out is, because the payment process by government is systematic, there are steps that you cannot jump. Even if you want to circumvent them, it gets to a point where it refers you to perhaps 2 steps back. But this is an opportunity that we will now leverage on, come together and see how we can sort in the process. Instead of going 3 steps to get their monies, we could sort in it to 2 or to 1 based on the financial advice that we'll be getting from the experts.
So before the minister was appointed, I suppose you were running the ministry, and what role did you play in this? Because, I mean, this is about November, and this minister was only appointed in November, so it means that the problem, you know, preceded her. You would have had to handle with this. How did you work, if at all, with the union to resolve this issue with finance?
Let me, without holding forth for the Minister of Finance, let me say that the funds for the month of November were secured, both SIG and salary on subvented schools. But the subvented schools payment is what had actually had hitches. The SIG was paid in full, but the subvention was just paid on Friday, this Friday. And I'm sure by the time the funds were paid to GTU, CCU, who confirmed receipt of our funds, the Gambia Teachers Union might have already held their meeting to decide on this track, because they may not know that the funds were already in the accounts of GTU, CCU.
But GTU, CCU should have advised the Teachers Union, since it's the Teachers Union that calls strikes, teacher strikes.
That is what is expected, and I would hope that that is done at their level, although I'm yet to confirm that. Like I said, we've not gotten a meeting with the Gambia Teachers Union, especially the Secretariat, which took up the strike. But I can say for certain that the funds were paid to GTU, CCU, and they confirm receipt of those funds. I can also say that the GMA, which is the TMA, which is the Treasury main account for this, has been debited, and I have a copy of that debit. meaning the funds have been transferred from the Gambia, from the Treasury main account of government to the GTU. So, like I said, is this movement from one level to another and the other to this, particularly the mission schools which have been referenced. I am convinced, and I can assure you that by 9 o'clock this morning, all their funds would have hit their accounts, because the other government schools or the other subvented schools, their accounts have been credited by GTU on Friday, but that was late afternoon of Friday. And I'm sure that might have already led to their decision, or they would have already decided to go on the strike before those funds were transferred.
Okay.
But with the mission schools, they will get their funds latest this morning by 9.
Okay. And hopefully, you know, all teachers will be back to work tomorrow. But the warning has been issued that they would, the Gambia Teachers Union is demanding proof that, you know, by the 15th of December, I mean, all payment processes would have been activated so that they are not left, you know, waiting until January for their December pay. Otherwise, more industrial action. You know, how would you respond to that?
Yeah, Uncle Peter, it's also important for us to know. Statutorily, we expect the books closure by the 15th of December for the month of December. However, the Minister of Finance have the responsibility, looking at the volumes and looking at the government transactions, to either extend it to the 20th. That decision is not like a sacrosanct one that has to be done on the 15th, failure of which no government operations can happen. So in this case, what I would advise is, if government decides to pay salaries for December on the 20th of the month, there is no way that they could pay the teachers on the 15th before that. And let me say this, in the month of September, when we were deploying our teachers, for the first time, government has single-handedly picked the teachers and paid them the salaries before the others. This was to enable the teachers or facilitate them to go on postings and schools to be resumed timely as we desired. So government is committed, and we will continue to work with the Ministry of Finance for them to understand that these are the burning issues raised by the Gambia Teachers Union. How can they help the ministry and the entire education sector to ensure that they do the needful, and teachers will not continue to do this? And maybe it's also important here, Uncle Peter, to say the schools that are affected. If you look at the senior secondary schools, we have 256 senior secondary schools. So a student population of about 200 or 100 and between 200 or 180 something students are affected.
1,000 students.
Yes. Okay. So we are very concerned at the ministry that the earlier we resolve this, and the better. But I want to appeal to my general, the Gambia Teachers Union, that in the spirit of partnership, in the spirit of togetherness, and all working towards the common goal, the ultimate goal of educating our children, let them reconsider their decision, because we will ensure that the funds get to them this morning, and put back the teachers to work by tomorrow, just to avoid further delay or further sitting down. Because if we further delay, then that will push us to extend the closure of schools and the opening of schools, as it were. Okay. Because we need to meet those contact hours as required.
And finally, he spoke about the, well, in his eyes, the paltry allocation in the budget to education. That doesn't signal education being a priority to this government.
Let's put it in context. You see, the fact of the matter is, when we do such analysis, we often relate them to the past. We are talking about a student population of less than 500,000. Today, you are talking of a population of over 800,000 students. You were talking about schools that were less than 1,000 schools. Today, you are talking about schools over 4,000. So these numbers, on the daily basis, they are on the increase to be able to accommodate children that are out of school. And maybe quickly to say that we have a program that we introduced to bring students to school, which is called Out of School Program. And it will interest you to know, and your listeners, that this program was able to bring 32,000 children back to the classroom. So the numbers are growing. Not that it is not prioritized, but because of the growth in the sector, more funds are required. And to perspectively put it, The present budget, for example, the budget of 2025, I had comments say MoBSE has the biggest budget, but they should put it in context. Out of that 5 billion, 3.9 billion of that is going on salaries alone.
Yeah, that's the complaint here. That is the complaint here.
Yes, but that's the growth. The teacher, when you have classrooms, you expect to, when you have children in school, you expect to have classrooms, and you expect to have teachers.
If more than
and the corresponding numbers.
If more than 60% of the budget goes to salaries, what about teaching aids and other stuff that you need, to enhance the learning of children? That's the complaint.
Yeah, but that's
so
what
we see this big figure, and you can argue, oh no, we're putting more into. No. That's not going into education per se. It's going into the pockets of the teachers. So how much money is left, to provide teaching aids and transportation? I mean, we hear the students are complaining. UTG students, they were promised X number of buses. They only were given them for a short period of time because the funds are not there to make any development sustainable.
Those are the discussions that are being held, engagements that are being held with the Minister of Finance to support that cause. All these things that are being highlighted have been shared with the ministry so that they understand some of the needs of the ministry. As you rightly said, school board services, development in terms of infrastructure for the like staff quarters. You also have the feeding program, the school grant. All of these are
You heard him say that we are still using chalk. We shouldn't be using chalk.
Yeah, but we are advancing. We have smart boards, but majorly, yes, we are still using chalk. But until we get there, until we are able to get the finances required as a country, we hope that perhaps someday when we have some minerals, we'll be able to get the required amount of funds. But government really is making efforts. Even subvention alone, we are spending between $300 and $400 million is on subvention. That is not, on a monthly basis, the subvention for salaries for the Sovente schools is over $68 million on monthly. So these are all funds really that government is trying to spend on education, but notwithstanding, we do understand their concern, and we are also equally concerned, especially as the leaders of the sector. It concerns us because we don't want this interruption. We are working towards achieving or working on the quality education that everybody is crying for. But with these intermittent strikes and all of this, it affects our concentration, and
it does.
We are not really into it. So I'm really pleading to my colleagues at GTU that we reconsider our decision, and as I said, it's my hope that by 9 o'clock this morning, the mission schools would have gotten their salary paid into their accounts.
Fantastic. Louis Moses, thank you very much for coming. That's Louis Moses Mendy. He's the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry for Basic and Secondary Education. Tomorrow we have a truly special program. One man for the whole 2 hours. He'll be talking about his business, taking your questions, no matter how critical. He'll be talking politics, youth affairs, national development, even social media, literally anything and everything under the sun. My sole guest tomorrow is the founder and CEO of TAF Africa Global, Alhaji Mustafa Njai, a.k.a. TAF, who moves with his own camera crew, I am told. So I wonder how we can fit 2 camera crews in the studio tomorrow. But it has to happen. So we'll find a way of making it happen. So look forward to an engaging conversation tomorrow with Alhaji Mustafa Njai, a.k.a. TAF. That's all from us for today. Thank you very much for the pleasure of your company. Until tomorrow, have a very good day.